Hi. Okay, so big topic because many of us have this feeling, and I have been like, I feel like I coined the phrase, what should I be doing? What am I supposed to be doing? I was confused for a long, long time, and I still go through bouts of feeling confused. So I want to talk about what to do when you're confused. And I'm just looking down because I want to share this so that people can join. What to do when you're confused? What to do when you're confused? So, think of an area in your life where you may be confused or feeling like you're confused. And so that could be your career. It could be, hey Terry, it could be, any number of areas, but just bring something to mind, right? And if you want to share it, feel free to share it. So I spent a lot of time, I work on life purpose and soul purpose with people, and sort of way more than that, I work on fulfillment and happiness and how you can feel actually content and fulfilled in your life. Like, why are we here? What are we doing here? Right? Big existential questions. That's what I work on. So I spend a lot of time with people who start the conversation with, well, I'm confused about what I should be doing. And if you've been there before, then you know the feeling, right? It's a terrible feeling. It's a feeling that we have incredible potential and we're wasting it. We're wasting time, we're wasting our energy, we're wasting our life, we're missing the point, we're never going to succeed. Like, it just can spiral us down into a pretty intense feelings like depression, and stress and anger at yourself, and it really can lead to a pretty unhappy relationship with yourself. And then on a more superficial level, there's also, on a day-to-day basis, what am I supposed to be doing? And that's where I tend to get hung up. But I've explored the whole realm. That's why I'm able to have this conversation. I've been at all of it. So let's talk about when you're confused, what's the deal? So I personally believe that all of us know exactly what to do, but we're not doing it. Or you could watch a video that somebody else made on this, and it's going to be a 5-minute video, and it's like, here's the one tip to get you back into action. And to be honest, I don't think that really helps, because it's not that we don't have tools at our disposal. It's not that we don't have knowledge at our disposal. It's that for some reason we're not choosing to do it or remember it. And the thing that I like to do is go beyond the tips and techniques to, okay, why isn't it not working for you? Like, let's really get into that. Either we've interpreted it wrong, we've got a big old yeah, but, which is, I was telling somebody yesterday, a client yesterday, it's like, that's my zone, right? Everybody's always like, yeah, but it doesn't apply to me. Yeah, but that doesn't work in my situation. Yeah, but if only you knew about this horrible thing that I have, this big secret that it doesn't work. We're constantly in the yeah, buts. So we can read something, we can listen to, we can watch something, we can have this incredible moment of like, yeah, that sounds amazing, I want to do that. And then we don't, either because we don't understand it, we don't know how it applies to us, or there's some giant yeah, but that's getting in the way. So here's what I believe about why we don't take action. Excuse me. I believe that either you're lying to yourself about what you really want, you don't know how to take the action to get what you really want, or you don't know which actions actually have impact. So it's one of those three things. That's my best assessment based on working with people and working with myself for all this time, is that when we're confused about what we're supposed to be doing, we're either lying to ourselves about what we really want, we don't know how to take the actions to get what we really want, or we're not sure which actions actually add up to and have impact in the way that we want them to have. Now, those, luckily, are three things that we can actually do something about, right? So this is one of the first steps with confusion, is we got to get really clear on what actually is the challenge, because confusion is that state of, like, I view it as like my mind just sort of disengages and is like, spinning, like, it's wishy-washy and hazy. And confusion can't sustain any type of clarity. It can't sustain any type of clarity, and it can't sustain any type of action. So as soon as we get clear on, well, what are we really confused about? Hey guys, what are we really confused about? What really is going on here? Is it that we don't know something, or is it that we're not letting ourselves embrace something, or is it that we're just not sure what to do to get that something? Those are three very different things. So if this was a 5-minute, here's one tip to get you out of confusion, the tip would be take action. The tip would be take action. And here's why. Because action is inherently clarifying. And it doesn't, to be honest, matter what action you do. Now, the yeah, but inside you, if you've been watching this from the beginning, I know that there was a giant yeah, but that was like, yeah, but if I knew what action to take, I wouldn't be confused. Fair enough. I hear you. I gotcha. I gotcha. 100%. Been there. And any action leads us closer to clarity. Because what happens when we take action is we learn something. We learn, oh, this is actually moving me towards something. Oh, actually, I don't want this. Oh, I do want this. Well, this feels better than before. This doesn't feel better than before. So we always learn when we start to take action, and then we can refine. So one of the things that being confused does is it freezes us up. It sort of puts us in this like holding state where nothing happens. And then it compounds, it piles on, because now we're not doing anything, right? And that doesn't feel good. Energy likes to move. Your body likes to move. Your mind likes to move. Everything in life is meant to be continually changing and moving. And when you've frozen, you're now out of sync. You're out of sync, right? So any action will help you, start to clear confusion. And that action could be going for a walk. It could be volunteering. It could be calling a friend, right? This is one of the reasons why when people talk about how gifting others, like volunteering for others, save their lives and help them through tough times, this is one of the reasons why. Because it just puts us back into the flow of life, and we get clarity as we go. And we just keep moving, right? And another yeah, but that I'm sure just came up, which is, yeah, but I don't want to waste a bunch of time doing things that aren't the right thing. Fair enough. Fair enough. I get that. And there's no wrong way to live your life. So the action that you're inspired to take right now is the action that's the right thing for you, right? So we have this idea, and this is one of the reasons that we get confused, because remember, I'm saying we get confused usually for 3 main reasons. 1, we're denying what we want. 2, we don't know what actions to take to get us there. Or 3, we're not sure which actions have any impact at all. So we just don't do anything. So if you're in that camp of like, I'm not sure which actions have impact, so I don't want to do anything, the concept of doing something, it's like, yeah, but you're missing the point. You're missing the point that I don't know which actions are going to get me to something that I maybe want, even if I haven't defined it clearly, right? And the thing is, that implies that there's a right and a wrong way to live your life. That implies that there is one outcome that you're going to get to, and you know and can see best the trajectory from where you are now to that outcome. And the truth is, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Even if you ended up getting exactly verbatim, picture perfect vision of what you think that you most want, chances are you're not going to get it how you think you're going to get it. So the action that's coming to mind now, the opportunity to take action that's right here in front of you now, is the action that's going to move you forward. Because there's no sort of judging right or wrong, right? There's no like, oh, well, you went that way, so I guess scrap all of this, right? I'm not talking necessarily about a giant action like, deciding at this moment watching this video that you're going to leave your family and move across the world and get divorced. Like, that action will obviously change the trajectory of your life. But when we're talking about something like write in your journal, go for a walk, call somebody, sign up to volunteer, like, yes, there's going to be little shifts, but if it's being presented to you right now, if it's the inspired action that you have in your mind right now, trust that it's the right one. I fundamentally trust that life is always working with us, and I fundamentally trust life to give us the door that we need to walk through. So if you're confused about what action to take, and part of that is because you're not sure which actions are actually going to have an impact or lead you to where you want to go, then just trust and start. And when you start, then you get the ability to be clear again. And when you're clear, you can assess. And as you assess, you can say, oh, actually, this doesn't feel good, or this does feel good. Actually, I want to go that way or more this way, right? And we can start to tweak. A lot of times when we freeze and we're like, I'm not going to do anything, which is actually what's underlying the feeling of confusion. I tell myself I'm confused, but really I'm like, I don't want to do anything because I'm afraid I'll get it wrong, because I'm afraid it's going to lead me somewhere else, right? Then, where was it? Where did I start that sentence? So, oh, that was a really good point. Where did it go? Taking the action, we don't want to take the action. Anyway, it'll come back to me because it was a really good point, and it was just summing up a lot of what we we're just talking about. If you remember the exact phrase I started with, please type it in below how I started that sentence. That I don't want to take action is below it, below the confusion. We don't know which actions are the right actions. Oh, we think that we don't have any power, right? We think that there's one right action and one wrong action, but that's not the case, as we were just saying. It sums it all up. So it's okay, it's safe to just take action, and then you can tweak along the way, because once you're not confused, once you sort of clear that haze, you're back in power. You're back in power, and you have the ability to assess and change course and tweak. And I know when you're in a space of confusion, it feels like you don't have any power, but once you're back in action, you do. You do. So, and actually you have it now. You're just sort of pushing it aside a little bit. Or at least that's how it feels to me when I'm in that space. So you have the ability to assess, reevaluate, retweak, change the course, all of that. You always have the opportunity to choose again. You always have the opportunity to choose again. So taking action now is an important first step, because you're going to get more clarity as you go along. So that's what I would say if that was the 5-minute version, right? Obviously that was more than 5 minutes, but like, oh, just take action, just take action. And I know that it's harder than that, and that's why. Now, the other piece that I've seen is that when we're confused about what to do and what we're supposed to be doing, a lot of people use that language. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, which to me is shorthand for I have this giant feeling that I'm supposed to be, really having a meaningful life, and I don't know how to connect the dots between this incredible feeling in my soul, in my heart, and my day-to-day life. And it feels so overwhelming and like such a huge hurdle that we just sort of shut down, right? We just sort of shut down. And to me, that's for two reasons. Either we're not really clear on what the thing is that we want, or that feeling, what that feeling really is and how it can be articulated in this tangible life, or we're not sure what actions are going to get us there. And this is what I work on with people in my private work. I'm going to work on all this stuff, but in the soul system that I do, and in the upcoming Living Your Truth course, which is starting in January, it's a live course. You should be there. It's going to be awesome. I'll put the link below. This is what we work on. Like, what is the actual vision? What is the vision of your soul and your heart? How do we translate that into actual tangible actions that your human self takes in this life, this social, economic construct of life that we have? And then what are the actions that keep us feeding towards that bigger vision, And where I found a couple people fall off the map on this, and the examples are endless really, but two main places where people fall off the map with vision is either we don't know how to get to that level of soul's vision, and fair enough, I don't know anybody who naturally does, and I don't know anybody who does the work that I do with soul's vision to articulate it as clearly as my soul system does. So we don't get to that level of soul's vision. So we're not really being able to pull up our creative energy and pull up our motivation. And two, we're denying what it is that we actually want, right? And a lot of us live in that state, because whether it's because we just sort of absorbed growing up that it wasn't safe to claim what we want, or, I was talking to a woman the other day who raised kids, and she's like, I just got out of the habit. You get out of the habit of thinking, what do I want? Because you're serving your family, and that's your main focus. So maybe we just forgot how to do it. We forgot how to put ourselves, not even first, but just even acknowledge that you have desires and wants, or it wasn't safe for some reason in your environment. So it's not a habit for you, or we just picked it up socially because honestly, it's out there in our culture, especially if you're in the West. So you just may not know. You just may not really be acknowledging what it is that you really want. And I don't say that flippantly, because a lot of people say, oh, just claim your desires. take your dream and run with it. I personally think that's a little bit dangerous because, and I'll say why, because in my experience, the soul speaks in metaphor and imagery and emotion, right? So the soul speaks in emotion and imagery, basically. And when we, as the ego, the human mind, translates that imagery in our just like beautiful innocence, we translate it directly. We're like, oh, I'm imagining an ocean and this feeling of expansiveness with the sunset. I must move to the beach, right? Or we're like, oh, I imagine myself feeling free, and that means I must travel around the world and divorce from my family. Like, so there's a disconnect there, right? The soul is trying to give you images to capture what the feeling is that it knows is possible for you. And then our cute little minds in their infinite wisdom attach immediately to, oh, that must mean this. And so I think when we tell people to just get clear on your dreams and pursue it, it's actually a bit dangerous, because the mind it can miss the point, right? It can miss the point. And I've worked with so many people who, even when I started, I used to work with business owners, and people would come in and be like, I'm going to start this granola company line. And it was like, well, let's hold on now. Like, what's your soul really getting at? And it turned out the soul was getting at like empowerment and community. We don't have to start a line of granola bars to get at empowerment and community, right? Or other people, people have lots of ideas of what the thing is that they're supposed to do. And many of us just don't want to do that thing. And so we tell ourselves we're confused when actually we just don't want to do that thing. And I've told this story before, but a few years ago, I was having dinner with a guy who had 10 kids. Bless this man, 10 kids, been married for decades, loved his wife, loved his family. And we're talking about purpose. And he said, well, I don't want to know my purpose because I don't want to know and have to live my purpose because I don't want to leave my family. And I was like, come again? I'm sorry, what? Right? But in his mind had told him that feeling of freedom, that feeling of expansiveness, that feeling of living in alignment with your soul was connected to what we view as a midlife crisis, going out on your own, being free, being able to travel. He had translated free as free of people, right? Independent, or independence as like disconnected. So the mind is adorable, but when you're confused on that level about what you really want, ask yourself, is it because the thing that you're saying that you want is just something you don't want to actually go through the steps of doing? Because many of us want the feeling but don't want what the vision is showing up, right? We want the feeling of freedom, but not if it's at the expense of leaving our spouse. We want the feeling of carefreeness, but we don't want to leave where we live just to move to the beach, So we tell ourselves that we're confused about what we want, when in reality we're just misinterpreting. We're misinterpreting the image that's coming to the mind. And we're taking that image as, this is the thing that is the full expression of me, and I'm not willing to do that thing, so then I must be confused, aka I'm lying to myself, right? AKA I'm just in denial about what it is that I really want. I'm like, don't talk to me about that thing. So I could rant about this all day, because I really do think this is like majorly dangerous in the self-help world, when people are like, just follow your dreams, because the soul speaks in imagery and emotion, meaning it's a metaphor. It's not directly translatable to the images that come to your mind. We have to do a bit more digging. Yes, I do teach meditation. Absolutely. And I meditate myself. So we have to do a bit more digging. So if one of the reasons that you're confused is because, yes, you could say more about that. I think all meditations are deep, but feel free to say more about that. Somebody's asking if I'm into deep meditation. Yes, I view myself as a yoga teacher. That's my main focus, is to teach truth, and as it was shared in the Vedas. So I'm a big proponent of meditation. So the point is, if you're hearing this and you're like, actually, maybe I'm not confused. Maybe I just don't want to I don't like the vision that's coming up in my head, that doesn't mean that that's your only hope for happiness, right? That vision is just a poor translation, and it's your mind's best guess at what the visuals are that capture those feelings. So if this is you and you're trapped, reach out to me. This is what we're going to do in the Living Your Truth course coming up in January. We're going to pick apart that vision and pick apart those emotions. No, I'm making a video. Thank you. We pick apart those emotions and get really clear on what it is that your soul's vision is so that you can take action. So reach out to me, join the program. That's what we're going to do. The other thing about getting confused that we talked about was, okay, so maybe we've got a vision or we have an idea of what we might want, but we're confused on what actions to take to get there. So we talked before about the actions that have impact. We talked about the confusion about the vision and what we really want, or being in denial about what we really want. And now we're going to talk about the actions that actually get us to where we want if we do feel like we have something in mind. So this, I think, is where many people, like, we do a bunch of stuff and it's not really getting us where we want to go, and we can't figure out why. And I don't mean on the level of like task-based goals, because that's somebody else's area of expertise. That's not my area of expertise. My area of expertise is on the feeling of fulfillment, satisfaction, and meaning, right? So you do a bunch of stuff, you're checking off a bunch of great things in life. You got the job, you got the career, you got the money, you got the, family, you got the house, you got the this, and you still don't feel fulfilled and satisfied. And you're like, how many actions can I do? Like, clearly I'm missing something. It's not about racking up. It's not about racking up successes or accomplishments. So then we're in this space of, like, our actions aren't actually leading us to this thing that we want. What is going wrong here? And what I found, and what I help people work on, is we define actions, again, based on this mental image, and we don't necessarily capture everything that's involved in doing it. So if what we're really trying to get at is a way of feeling, a way of being in the world, feeling meaningful, feeling purposeful, feeling fulfilled, then the actions that we're taking have to feed us on that level. And I would say 99.9% of us either don't know what types of actions actually fulfill us and make us feel meaningful, hey Shannon, and purposeful, or we don't take them because we think that it's not what we should be doing. And that's sad. I mean, it's just sad, right? Like, it's really, really sad. So I think that all of us on some level know the type of actions that would make us feel good. Hint, 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 that's your soul telling you something, right? But we don't necessarily ever articulate them. We don't say them out loud. We don't write them down. We don't say exactly why. We just sort of have this mental image of, well, one time I was doing this job and I really liked that. So we think it was that specific circumstance. Or, I was really happy in this relationship over here. So we think it's a specific time or person, but we don't pull it apart and look at, well, actually, what are the elements involved in that? What were the things that I was actively engaged in? Who was I with? How many people was I with? What kinds of things was I doing? What was I surrounded by? What was the focus? We can pull some generalities out of these things that we think are random. And then we can clearly articulate the exact kinds of things that you need in your life, the exact kinds of actions, the kinds of environments, the kinds of situations that you can create deliberately in order to actually feed yourself with the feeling of meaning and purpose and fulfillment. So then we're like reverse engineering, right? We're reverse engineering what is it that you need to do every day in order to get to where you want to be, but actually feel like you're getting to where you want to be. Because you can rack up accomplishments all day long for the rest of your life and still not feel happy or fulfilled. So if we want to have those deeper feelings, and this is where some confusion comes in, is because we're like, oh, but I keep achieving all these things and none of it's actually making me feel better. None of it's actually making me feel like my life has meaning. None of it's actually making me feel anything other than I must be playing a game, everybody else must be satisfied, and I'm not. I must be missing something. I must be crazy, right? Like, these are the things we tell ourselves. Like, we look around and we're like, is everybody else, like, do they know something I don't know? Because I feel like I'm just playing at life and everybody else seems to have got their stuff together and they seem satisfied, and I'm like, is this a game? because the real me over here is not sure that this is what it's about, right? And if we want to start feeding that real you that's like, I think I'm missing something. I want to feel like I matter and I have meaning and fulfillment in my life, then we've got to figure out what actions feed that person, that part of you, that soul-based part of you, that truth within you. So I'm giving you some clues on how to do that. I also want you to do it with me in the Living Your Truth thing starting in January. And by thing, I mean 6-week journey. But, and get clear on what are the elements in your life. Like, what are the activities, what is the environment? What's the types of situations? How many people do you need to, like, what's going to fulfill you on a really deep level so that you actually know what actions to take on a day-to-day basis to feed you, your soul in particular, and your happiness. So the other piece to that is, I think most of us do know what makes us happy, but we don't articulate it in those terms. And the other part is, some of us, we don't do the actions, even if we know them. And if you're my client, raise your hand, right? Because this is where we all struggle, is even when we know the things that are going to make us feel good, we don't do them, because most of the time, the things the soul is like, hey, this is the top priority. Hey, this is the top priority, like flashing bulbs. This is number one thing that's going to make you feel fulfilled in your life. And we're like, no, that can't be true. It can't be true. I mean, it feels right, but it can't be true. It can't be true, because that's not the thing that makes me money. That's not the thing that like makes me super stressed out and having to accomplish stuff all day long. So like, it just, I mean, it feels good and right, but it just can't be true. It just can't be true, right? So then we don't do it. We don't do it. And this is, I've now had a lot of experience with this, a couple of years of experience with this. This is why I, hands down, like without reservation, say all of my work is better in groups now, because we need the group to help us sort of have the confidence to give it a shot, keep us on track, and sort of see the hilarity of the games that we play with ourselves. So this video has had a lot of different parts to it, and that's intentional, because my goal is to pull apart things that people answer in the most superficial ways, right? The superficial answer is, are you confused? Get into action. Take an action. I don't care what you do. Turn off Facebook, go for a walk, write in your journal, write a book. Like, that's not one action, you know, call your mom. Like, the short answer is take action. The long answer is everything we've been talking about. Why don't we take action? Why do we argue with that? Why does it not seem to fit for you? Is it because you're confused on one of these three levels? Because I don't think confusion is a thing. It's a state of feeling. It's a way, to me, what it feels like is I've sort of like disengaged and checked out from my life a little bit. Like I'm sort of hovering and observing instead of actively being here in my body, actively being in my mind, which action gives you. Action puts you right in that space. So there's three things that I think are actually going on to lead us to believe that we're in confusion. One is denying what we really want, and that's tied up in that confusion about the images that we're getting from the soul, and then assuming that that's exactly what it has to be, which is gross misinterpretation of the soul's only way of communicating with you, which is imagery and emotion. The second is that we talked about. The first thing is not knowing which actions actually have impact, and so we just sort of freeze because we're like, I don't know which action's right or not, right? And then the third one that we just talked about is not knowing how to get the actions to get you to where you want to be. And a lot of that is because we're looking at action on this sort of, we're assuming that the vision in the head, we're assuming that this sort of like tangible goal is the thing that's going to get us to feel good, instead of actually focusing on what are the ways that we want to feel, and then what are the soul-aligned things that actually feed us on that level so that we do feel fulfilled and meaningful and on purpose. And if all of this is making you think, huh? What? Wow, I've been missing the boat. Like, where have I been? I need this. Then I want you to consider, at least, if not do it, joining the Living Your Truth program in January. We're going to go through this system for 6 weeks where we get clear on the soul's vision. We get clear on what actually feels like happiness for your soul. We get clear on the types of activities that you need to do in order to fulfill your soul on a meaningful and purposeful level, and the exact actions that you can do every day. Plus, you get the group to help support you as you make those changes and you make those decisions, because it is not easy. It is not easy to prioritize the soul. It is not easy to prioritize the actions that feed the soul, mostly because they seem irrelevant. They seem like icing on the cake, would be nice, super nice, but kind of frilly, because I have to be super stressed about this thing over here because this is where money and stress and prestige and blah, 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 right? That's usually why. It's just, we just have to convince our mind. Convince our mind, which means changing our reward system. It means changing how we prioritize ourselves. It means changing how we think about the world and what's important. It means changing how we actually soothe ourselves and praise ourselves. Like, there's a lot in it. There's a lot in it. And that's why the work that I do, you know, it's the end goal is that you end up being like, oh, I feel great and I feel myself, because we've stripped away all this crap that just isn't you. It's not aligned with who you are, but we've been like clinging on to it because we're trying to play by the rules to get the things we want to get. We're just missing the point. And that's one of the things here with being confused, is that most of the time when we're confused because, again, we're trying to play by these rules and they're not fitting. They're just not fitting who you are. So I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, we covered a lot. I highly recommend watching this again, particularly if you are feeling confused and taking action. Highly recommend watching it again. If you have any questions, feel free to message me privately. You can also comment here. Also, if you don't know, my sessions, individual sessions, are by donation. So there's no barrier to scheduling one with me. No matter who you are, you can pay me $10,000 or $2. I prefer the 10,000, but they're freely given. So there's no barrier to getting the support you need. And if you want to go through this bigger process, right, this bigger process of really getting clear about your soul's path here, your soul's desires here, and what it looks like to take action in alignment with your soul on a day-to-day basis, then please, please, please look up the Living Your Truth program that I'm starting in January. It's here on my Facebook page. I'll put it on my website. It's going to be, it is a beautiful process. I've probably taken 100 or 200 people through it at this point over the past few years. It's a beautiful, beautiful process, and it's going to help you figure out how to feed yourself and take the action that really matters on a day-to-day basis. So I'll talk to you soon. Mwah!